Analyzing Poetry by Freddie Hediger. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe. About the poet. Christopher Marlowe was born on February 26, 1564. He actually was a big influence of William Shakespeare's. He died on May 30th, 1593, his murder a big mystery still to this day. Poem background. Marlowe's poem is pastoral, meaning it is set in a version of the countryside. Part of it was published in 1599, but Marlowe enthusiasts suspect it to have been written in the mid to late 1580s. The poem. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that valleys, groves, hills, and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields, and we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks, by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals, and I will make the beds of roses and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds with coral clasp and amber studs, and if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. Analyzing the poem. Tone shift. At the beginning of the poem, there is but a simple request of come and be my love. By the end, however, the speaker is changed, and they only want the one they are speaking to come live with him if they are moved by his words. Setting. An idealized version of the countryside. Repetition. Live with me and be my love. Inversion. By shallow rivers to whose falls. Speaker of the poem. A lonely man that wants to explore the countryside with someone. Analysis of the theme. This poem is sometimes debated between if the feelings the speaker is trying to convey is love or lust. Marlowe does a great job showing us how tricky it can be to tell the difference. The first line, come live with me and be my love, could either be a request or is it a threat? If that's the case, the poem isn't as lovely as it seems. If the offer is accepted, the speaker then describes all the fun activities they will do. The poem ends in a cliffhanger, and we never hear the love's reply. Poem's connection. Back in Marlowe's time, relationships were a lot to handle, and they haven't gotten much better here in the 21st century. Not many people are writing poems for their sweethearts these days, instead taking the time to send them a text that a 6-year-old could type. But regardless, love isn't dead. It wasn't back in the 1500s, it isn't today, and it won't be in the future. This poem beautifully depicts the common relationship between two people and all the fun they engage in. Death, Be Not Proud by John Donne. About the poet. John Donne was born on January 22, 1572, and he died on March 31, 1631. His poems are known for their strong, sensual style as well as vibrant language and inventive metaphors. Poem background. Many believe John wrote this sonnet after the death of his wife in 1617, giving it a greater meaning, but it wasn't published until 1633. John was also a preacher and wrote many intense sermons. I guess you could say this is one of them. This poem focuses on mortality and looks to help those who read it, not fear death as much. The poem. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou think'st thou dost overthrow. Die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me, from rest and sleep which but thy pictures be, much pleasure then from thee much more must flow. And soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and thou'st with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and poppy or charms can make us sleep as well. And better than thy stroke, why swell'st thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Analyzing the poem. Tone shift. There isn't really a shift in tone. The whole poem is basically just one big egg being thrown at death. John Donne certainly isn't pulling any punches here. Setting. Likely a time where the speaker is close to death, perhaps in his sleep. Conceits. And death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Metaphors. Throughout the poem, a big metaphor is the concept of death being compared to something human-like that can kill you, like a disease. Inversion. Die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. Speaker of the poem. Someone on the verge of dying. Purpose. To make death seem obsolete like a human. Analysis of the theme. The theme of this poem is that death is not as powerful as it thinks it is. It isn't scary. This poem does a wonderful job of helping the readers reimagine death as just a person, a normal, everyday person. Death is just like rest. It'll be peaceful when you die. Death isn't worth our time. You could also tie this in to bullies or a corrupt boss. This poem could single-handedly teach you to stand up against anything intimidating, like the concept of death. We should all take a lesson from the speaker in this poem. Poem's connection. Back in the 1600s, people didn't live as long as they do today. Medicine wasn't really a thing, so people couldn't be treated. Because of this, death was common. The truth is, nobody wants to die, back then or today. Hopefully in the future, this will be the same. If we are to die, though, no matter what year it is, we should take death lightly, because when we wind up in eternity, the worst will be over, and technically, death itself will be the one dead. To His Coy Mistress by Andrew Marvell. About the poet. Andrew Marvell was born March 31st, 1621, and died August 16th, 1678. Like John Donne, he was considered a metaphysical poet. Let us now marvel at one of his most famous works, To His Coy Mistress. Poem background. This poem is very mysterious. A nameless man is writing to a nameless woman. We don't know much about either one of them. Basically, it's a plea for sex, and if this man and woman don't have sex, worms will feast on their virginity in their grave. Yeah, it's racy. The poem. Had we but whirled enough in time, this coyness, lady, were no crime, we would sit and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find, I by the tide. Of Humber would complain, I would love you 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please, refuse, till the conversation of the Jews, conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow, vaster than empires, and more slow, and 100 years should go to praise thine eyes, and go on thy forehead gaze, 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest, an age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For, lady, you deserve this state, nor would I love at lower rate, but at my back I always hear Time's winged chariot hurrying near. And yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song, then worms shall try that long-preserved virginity, and your quaint honor turn to dust, and my ashes all my lust. The grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do they embrace. Now therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore of instant fires, now let us sport us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey, rather at once of our time devour, than languish in his own slow chat power. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife, furrow the gates of life, the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we make him run. Analyzing the poem. Setting. The speaker of the poem takes us on an adventure from the Ganges River to the Humber estuary in England. Hyperbole. Then worms shall try that long-preserved virginity, and into ashes all my lust, throw the iron gates of life. Speaker of the poem. A man looking for love. Analysis of the theme. The theme of this poem is that a man believes that his problems will not be cured unless his woman has sex with him. Even though she is married, this dude tries to convince her that he would make it worth her while, and that it wouldn't be a crime since he would be so attentive to her. Poem's connection. This poem connects with its time period because I'm willing to bet a lot of chivalrous acts took place within relationships in the 1600s. It even occurs to this day, and likely will be in the future as well. People just can't help themselves sometimes. The end.